When a fake HOA enforcement team showed up at Randall Pierce's door demanding to seize his AR-15s without a real warrant, it wasn't just a violation of his rights. It was an attack on everything he stood for. These imposters disgraced ex-private security fired for abuse, used intimidation and lies to bully innocent homeowners. But Randall's Army Ranger instincts and quick call for backup flipped the script in a way no one expected. Just wait until you hear how justice finally caught up with them, and why no one will ever threaten Randall's family or freedom again. It was exactly 6:42 a.m. when I heard the knock, loud, firm, too deliberate to be a neighbor. I looked through the peephole and saw three men standing on my porch. They were dressed in matching black tactical uniforms with HOA enforcement printed in bold letters across the chest. No badges, no name tags, just patches and gear that looked like it came straight from a surplus catalog. One of them stepped forward and said in a flat voice, "Sir, you're in violation of local firearm compliance. We're authorized to take temporary custody of your AR-15s per HOA Code 47B. I blinked. HOA? Let me be clear, I live 30 miles outside of Macon, Georgia. The only HOA out here is a gravel road and a handwritten mailbox. We don't do bureaucratic nonsense. Out here, property means something. The Constitution means something. My name is Randall Pierce. I'm 43, Army vet, 3 tours. I know what authority looks like, and this wasn't it. I stepped outside and asked to see a warrant. The guy handed me a wrinkled sheet of paper, barely printed in color, with no seal, no court signature, just a bullet list of infractions. I scanned it. One line claimed unauthorized possession of semi-automatic weapons under HOA regulation. Another mentioned failure to comply with community ordinance, whatever that meant. "This isn't legal," I said. The lead guy didn't flinch. "It's enough," he said sharply. Then, without warning, he took one step forward and tried to cross the threshold of my home. That's when my heart kicked into a different gear. My mind raced. Was this real? Who were these men? Were they bluffing? Or worse, did they believe their own act? I put my hand on the doorframe, blocking the entrance. "Back off," I said. "You're not coming inside." And in that frozen second of silence, I realized something chilling. These men weren't here to talk. They were here to take. I slammed the door so hard the frame rattled. My boots echoed across the hardwood as I crossed the living room straight to my gun safe. Everything was still there. My AR-15s, my old hunting rifle, the Glock I carried on duty. I stared at them, my hand hovering over the handle. But I didn't reach for a weapon. Not yet. I picked up the landline and called the sheriff's office. Voicemail. I left a message, calm but urgent, explaining what was happening. No lights, no sirens, just silence. Then I called Jack, my old Ranger team leader. We hadn't talked much since he started training recruits out at Fort Benning, but when he picked up, I didn't waste time. "Jack, I've got a problem. Some guys pretending to be law enforcement just tried to confiscate my firearms. No real ID, no warrant. They're circling my place." He didn't even hesitate. "Don't move. We're coming." Outside, I saw movement through the blinds. The 3 men were still out there, walking the perimeter, checking windows, taking pictures of my truck, my license plate, even the gravel trail that led to my barn. Then they left. 5 minutes passed, and then they came back. This time, there were 6 of them. They pulled up in a matte black van. No license plate, no markings. 2 stepped out in the same bogus HOA enforcement uniforms. One had a clipboard. Another held what looked like a pellet rifle, but it had a long-range scope mounted like he was on Overwatch. No real cops act like this. No HOA on earth does tactical surveillance. This wasn't about rules. This was a targeted intimidation raid. Then I saw one of them walk around back and pull on the handle of my storage shed. That shed isn't just for tools. Inside is my late father's folded American flag from his funeral, his Bronze Star, his Vietnam medals, his ashes, in an old cedar box we built together before I enlisted. The moment I saw that man reach for the shed door, something snapped inside me. Not panic, not fear, hatred. a quiet, cold kind of hatred that comes when someone crosses a line you didn't even know you had drawn. This wasn't about my rifles anymore. This wasn't even about my property. This was about honor, about memory, about the one thing no man has the right to touch. The sharp crash of glass breaking in the back room hit me like a blow. They were inside, finally making their move. I didn't know who these men really were. Ex-security operatives? Some militia wannabes? Lunatics playing dress-up cops? None of it mattered. I didn't reach for a gun. Not yet. Instead, I reached beneath the stairs and flipped a switch, an old rig I had set up years ago when I still had my army jeep. Instantly, the shrill wail of a siren pierced the morning silence. Red and blue lights flooded the yard, flashing against the trees and my house. The noise was deafening, loud enough to send neighbors rushing to their windows, loud enough for Jack to hear, way up in the air. 4 minutes later, the unmistakable silhouette of a Black Hawk helicopter appeared, slicing through the dawn sky. Then came the booming voice from above. "Hands where we can see them! U.S. Army Rangers! You're surrounded!" Jack was the first to rappel down the rope, smooth and steady like I'd seen 100 times before during training. 2 more Rangers hit the ground seconds behind him, the so-called HOA enforcement team. They scattered like roaches exposed to light. No resistance, no warrants, no badges, just a group of frightened men dropping to their knees, overwhelmed and broken. One of them even collapsed, tears streaming down his face. It was over. They thought they could take what I fought for. They thought they could intimidate me into surrender. But they underestimated the will of a ranger. They forgot who they were messing with. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. Those men weren't real law enforcement. They were ex-private security contractors who'd been fired after multiple abuse complaints. Desperate and dangerous, they had fabricated a fake HOA enforcement to terrorize rural homeowners like me, pretending to enforce made-up rules so they could intimidate and seize whatever they wanted. Now, the law was catching up with them. They faced up to 15 years behind bars for impersonating officers, unlawful entry, and attempted firearm theft. When the sheriff finally arrived, he didn't just bring backup, he brought respect. He looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you for holding your ground and not escalating the situation." I stood tall, with Jack beside me, my old ranger buddy who had come through when it counted most, and my son quietly watching, holding my father's folded flag in his hands. Jack clapped me on the shoulder and said with a steady grin, "You're still a ranger, brother. Always will be." At my gate now, there's a new sign, bold and clear. "We honor the Constitution here. Rangers on call." Since that day, no one has knocked on my door pretending to be something they're not, and no one will ever take my AR-15s from me again, not while I stand here defending what I fought for. This is my land, and here, justice still means something.